We have more information on what led the New York Islanders to shockingly move on from GM and president Lou Lamoriello, and a better idea of what it's going to look like as the New York Islanders look for their next GM. We're going to break this all down on this episode of Islanders Digest, but before we do that, be sure to subscribe to the channel. This is going to be a crazy offseason for the New York Islanders. We already have a new GM, so if you don't want to miss any of the things that are coming next, any of the news updates, be sure to subscribe to stay up to date. We will be covering it all. This Lou Lamoriello news was a complete shock to Islander fans who really wanted change but did not expect it to happen. It was really quiet around the Islanders until a few days ago there were tweets that there were some rumblings, and then boom, Lou Lamoriello is not returning. He had a contract that kind of rolled over year to year, so basically while he's not getting fired, the Islanders have elected not to renew that contract. So Lou Lamoriello will no longer be the GM or president of the New York Islanders. And David Pagnotta is reporting that this is something that has been talked about behind closed doors in the Islanders organization, behind minds who are in control of things, for the last week. And in addition, a really key thing here is Lou was informed of the team's decision before the regular season ended. So this is something that Lou knew. He was not blindsided today. This is perhaps why he did not speak and locker close that day the other day. And really interestingly, it just shows another example of Lou Lamoriello not letting anything leak out to the public. He knew he was not going to be upped as the Islanders GM for next season, and yet nobody knew about it until it happened. So, something that Lou loves to do. He loves to make sure that nobody in the media knows what is going on. And now the big question for the Islanders is what comes yet next. Yes, there is going to be change as the Islanders have a new GM, but the biggest question now is who is that GM going to be? And insiders are all over this as they discuss so many different scenarios, as the Islanders so far are the first team to move on from their GM. There will likely be other teams to do the same, but so far the Islanders are the first team to do it, and as a result, this is a very attractive looking job. Darren Dreger reported, as the Islanders move on from the massive experience of Lou Lamoriello, it'll be interesting to see if the list that John Collins puts together. Ken Holland is eager to work again, but has made it clear he wouldn't take someone's job. There has to be a vacancy, big opening now. And let me start this off by saying, I understand that Ken Holland does not have a job. I really hope his next job is not with the New York Islanders. I don't think this would be a fit at all. I hope this does not happen. And for the record, I don't think you move on from Lou Lamoriello to bring in a Ken Holland. I think the whole point of this is to bring in a younger face, a face who's going to be willing to allow the Islanders to kind of retool and rebuild and really find a new identity with younger players. At least that's the hope. That's what fans wanted to move on from Lou Lamoriello for. If we have another older GM like Ken Holland who's going to be doing the same things that Lou Lamoriello did, then why not keep Lou Lamoriello, who, for the record, did have a very good run with the New York Islanders. We're going to be talking about more about what's going to happen next and some more reports on what's going to be going on and is this an attractive job. Before we get into that, I do want to emphasize Lou Lamoriello was a good GM for the Islanders, and let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments below. Sure, he was not perfect, and in the last few years, he really struggled, and I do agree that it was time for Lou Lamoriello to go because they really need a new face to really build a new core and a new identity for this franchise. But 2 conference finals appearances, I mean, the Islanders made the playoffs for the majority of the season, missing only twice while Lou Lamoriello was in office. And keep in mind, this is a team that when he came in office, he lost a franchise player because of the previous regime, and he was still able to make the Islanders a playoff contender right away. Lou Lamoriello gave us some of the best Islanders hockey we've seen in a long time. For me, the best Islanders hockey I've ever seen. I was not there, obviously, for the 1980 runs. So a thank you to Lou Lamoriello, who really did a good job at GM, but it was time for change, and perhaps the situation he left the future of the Islanders in was not so bad, as we're going to talk about in the end of this video. But before we talk about that, I do want to focus on one thing that Elliotte Friedman said, focusing on how the New York Islanders head coach Patrick Waugh has not yet been fired. Just because Lou Lamoriello will no longer be the GM, Patrick Waugh is still under contract, and what's likely going to happen is they're going to have a new GM come in the new GM is going to interview Patrick Waugh and then make a decision on whether or not to continue with Patrick Waugh as a coach or to find a new coach with the New York Islanders. Patrick Waugh still has a couple years under contract. Couldn't quite find what that contract was. It is pretty secretive. I'm sure it's on the internet somewhere. But the point is, Lou Lamoriello's contract ended, and that's why he wasn't fired. They just did not continue his contract. On the other hand, Patrick Waugh still has years with the Islanders. So we will see what happens next. Could Patrick Waugh perhaps even interview to be the GM of the New York Islanders? It is unlikely, but we can see that happen. Really, everything can happen. This is going to be a very exciting time for the New York Islanders. We'll likely be getting a list of potential suitors for the jobs in the next coming days. But one thing I really want to focus that Elliot Friedman did say is that there's going to be a lot of interest in this job for the Islanders. A lot. And this is really encouraging for New York Islanders fans. This is not a job, as kind of in the talk show where he was talking there were kind of questions on whether or not anyone would really want this job with the New York Islanders, citing issues such as the AHL system after Lou Lamoriello being a complete wreck, and the team really not being too close contending after so many years. And Friedman really emphasized there that this is a job that a lot of executives are going to be interested in, and he's already hearing a lot of people are very interested in this Islanders job. And you know what? It really does make a lot of sense. Sure, Lou Lamoriello was not a perfect GM, but one thing you got to give him credit for, on top of all the conference finals appearances, is the New York Islanders actually do have a pretty good setup for the next GM to come in and really put their identity on a team. We have a lot of contracts expiring for the New York Islanders. In addition, they have 3 picks in the first round over the next 2 seasons, so a lot of future assets. Lou Lamoriello did the next GM a service by trading Brock Nelson for Callum Ritchie and a first-round pick, a huge haul that is definitely going to make it easier for the Islanders to really find a younger identity. And that is definitely making it exciting for GMs who will be interviewing for this job. There are likely going to be a lot more changes to come for the New York Islanders. And the big question is who's going to be making these decisions. And obviously, the main focus is going to be finding a new GM, because the GM is going to be the person who really hires and fires the rest of the Islanders front office and really puts everything together. And that answer to who's going to be picking the GM is John Collins. As we just talked about, he's going to have a lot of choices. And the first question I had as soon as the Islanders made this decision and they announced that they were moving on from Lou Lamoriello and John Collins would be the person selecting the next GM is John Collins qualified to make this decision? And here we're going to talk about some of his qualifications. He has been with the Islanders since 2023 as the operating partner for the Islanders at UBS Arena. He also has a background working as the COO of the NHL and also the CEO of the NFL's Cleveland Browns. And if you follow football at all, the Cleveland Browns are not a great franchise, but it seems like he does have a lot of experience with sports, which typically these executives do not. I mean, he's done a lot with sports. He has been a really good businessman in terms of sports for a long time. So hopefully he can make a decision when it comes to the Islanders that will really help the team long term. Is a little concerning that he was involved with the Cleveland Browns again, because that NFL franchise is a mess. But I do have confidence that John Collins will make the right decision. And compared to the rest of the Islanders ownership group, I definitely think he is the most qualified to make this decision. He is a part owner of the Islanders. Obviously, he is not the main owner. That is Scott Malkin. I think John Collins has a lot more experience when it comes to working with sports and really working with GMs. And as a result, I think it makes a lot of sense for Scott Malkin to allow John Collins to make this choice. And one takeaway I've had over this whole Lou Lamoriello situation with the Islanders moving on is they've handled it with a lot of class. And the ownership group of the New York Islanders has proven to me as a fan that this is a good ownership group. Not only do they care about making the Islanders better, it seems so far, based on making this decision and having John Collins make the next decision on who's going to be the next GM, that this ownership group knows what they're doing, and not only that they want the Islanders to succeed, they seem to have a solid plan. We will see how that works during the offseason. Again, there's going to be a lot more that happens over the next few weeks, so if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date. As always, if you haven't already, Be sure to subscribe. My name is Patrick Nilan. This is Islanders Digest. Let's go, Islanders.